Good afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started with the moment of silence and the pledge led by Ms. Satterfield.
Please stand for a moment of silence. The pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Board members, just a reminder that we have until June 30th of this year to complete our annual required training. TSBA is holding several School Board Academy sessions in Knoxville this spring, so if you have not registered yet, please let Terry know if you need her assistance. And do we have any changes to this work session meeting agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Any discussion? Did you get that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Mr. Thomas, we'll turn to you for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. A few brief updates have taken place since we've last met. I want to highlight several important events that are coming up soon. Tomorrow evening, Thursday, March 5th, the Disparities in Educational Outcomes Steering Committee will host a community conversation at Fulton High School from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. This meeting will include a presentation by district officials and breakout sessions that focus on discipline, student supports, school culture, and the role of the KCS Ombudsman. Eliminating disparities is a key goal in our strategic plan, and certainly looking forward to our conversation tomorrow evening. Another opportunity to visit with district officials is coming up on Thursday, March 12th. KCS will host a community budget meeting at Gresham Middle School at 5:30 p.m. The district will provide an update on next year's budget and answer questions from the public, so I'd like to invite anyone who's interested in our budget process to attend. Also, this Saturday, March 7, KCS will host a recruitment fair at Central High School from 9 a.m. to noon. In addition to teachers, we're recruiting outstanding candidates for other departments such as school security, food service, custodians, transportation. This is a great chance for the community to learn about career opportunities with KCS. It's also important to note that we're offering a $7,000 incentive for a new special education teachers and $5,000 bonus for new speech language therapists, school psychologists, hearing specialists, vision specialists, and audiologists. Teachers in certain hard-to-staff specialties of math and science are also eligible for incentives. And finally, I'd like to remind everyone that spring break is March 16th through the 20th. I hope our families and employees have a restful break, and I want to encourage our students, as always, to continue reading over the spring break. Madam Chair, members of the board, this concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And this evening, we will have the opportunity, board members, to hear from the Teacher Advisory Council. And Mr. Thomas, would you like to introduce the teachers who are here?
Yes, we're very fortunate to have two of our members here from the Teacher Advisory Council this evening, and if they would come forward, Lynn Shurian is a behavioral specialist at Norwood Elementary School, and she's serving her second year on the Teacher Advisory Council, and Laurie Smith is a kindergarten teacher at Cedar Bluff Elementary School, also serving second year on Teacher Advisory Council, and we've had 5 meetings so far this year, 2 more scheduled, March and April, that we'll be meeting. And let me just say the Advisory Council is very valuable in providing us, the staff, me, insight into issues that certainly are going on in the classroom and concerns that our teachers have. And it's been very productive. And as a result of this, it helps to inform our budget process too, because what we want to do is make sure we're trying to address and are addressing the concerns of our teachers in the classroom, and they're just really a great group to work with, and I appreciate them so much and all the work they've done this year. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Lynn and to Laurie. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We were asked to present an overview of what we've talked about. So the notes that you have in front of you, I'll give you kind of a background. We put things in general discussions, discussions based on elementary, middle, and high school concerns, and then it kind of goes back to general discussions and then ongoing concerns. So that's kind of how it's organized. The discussions we started with at the beginning of the year, we were asked about what we feel like KCS does well. All teachers are in agreement that the budget with the 4% raise was very beneficial and helpful.
Oh, Lynn, can I interrupt just 1 second? Because I know you provided an outline, but I don't think that got to.
Oh, sorry, I saw it on the
So-
collective view, so.
Oh, okay. We'll get that to board members.
Okay. The autonomy within the different schools, teachers are very appreciative of. Everyone felt like communication within the schools is improving. The contract that we have with Helen Ross McNabb is definitely beneficial for behavior. Summer trainings for teachers helped with the textbook adoptions, and they're very pleased with that. They want that to continue. The KCS portfolios, they're outstanding, and other school districts are looking to our advanced training model for those portfolios. And then the maintenance response has been excellent. So those are some things that we felt like KCS has done a good job with. We also had a discussion about the microteam structure and the intent for them to be a resource for schools. We talked about teacher compensation as a matter of focus, again, going back to that 4% raise and trying to meet the needs and keep the district up with other schools around the area. We had a conversation about the Bible release pilot discussion, and there were not a whole lot of pros other than some people like the religious aspect of it. But the biggest concern overall is how does it align with KCS's strategic plan? So there are some other concerns, but that's the biggest one that came up. Others monitoring how the kids come and go, how they make up what they're missing when they're gone, those kinds of things. So Lori's going to take over with elementary concerns, the things that we had discussions about based on those concerns.
Okay, so we break into grade level groups. So we have an elementary group, a middle group, and a high school group, and we kind of lay out concerns or things that we'd like to discuss at the meetings. And based on the elementary school meeting, it went a lot around behavioral supports. We're seeing a lot of behavior issues in the schools. And we just touched on TCI and what it is, what it does, to get a little more clarification there. We talked about the cultural support teams with psychologists, social workers, and counselors to help support the staff. And we had a discussion on how the NAS babies' brains are different and how we're seeing a lot of that in the classrooms. Restorative intervention and ISS and how that helps in the schools. And we just touched on how many that we have, the 23 therapists and 14 mental health professionals and case managers in KCS right now. And another one of our elementary school concerns was the textbook adoption process, since we have that new adoption coming this year, hopefully, and just how that's going to roll out and the timing on training and that type of thing, hopefully during the summer. So we have some time to look at it before we get into the school year. With the middle school concerns, it mainly revolved around response to intervention and the math proficiency. And then high school concerns that were brought up were about the EPSOs and CTE overviews and the direction that KCS is taking with those. The EPSOs offered in some high schools and some middle schools with the goal to move that back a little bit towards the elementary schools, and we talked a bit about that. And the CTE moving from just the industrial aspect to advanced academic coursework instead as well. And then this was kind of, it started out kind of in the high school arena, but we kind of all agreed with the team versus the Tiger evaluations. And we had a pretty good discussion about that, that we were all pretty much in agreement that the team's a little more stressful. The Tiger would be fantastic and less stressful if that ever comes around to switching over, just from all the input we've had with the pilot schools and from other districts that have been doing the Tiger for a while. And then one of the other concerns from the high schools were the facilities in the community areas, which we had some discussions about. Actually, at our last TAC meeting, we talked about the age of the facility and the upgrades and how that all works. And then we had a little area of areas that KCS could improve a little bit. Consistency in policies and enforcement at each school. Program initiatives, not given enough time to determine if they work before moving on to something new. And we've had, with our teacher advisory council, we last year actually signed up to work with Knox Advances, Knox Supports, and Knox Reads initiatives. But we haven't really done a lot with that since. I mean, we've had a lot of really super good discussions, but we haven't had a lot of time to work with those groups again. One of the other things that were brought up was the shifting of the principals. Some of that was due to retirement incentives. Some of it's just, shifting them around kind of frequently depending on the area.
And it wasn't clear whether the principals were effective or not because of the shifting. If they're only there for a year, does it show that they're effective or not?
And then the need to expand the Recovery High School and Newcomer Center is something else we discussed. The increase in the SPED caseloads, but the budget and resources are being cut. And that's kind of something we discussed more in depth, just because we're seeing a much higher caseload with our special education teachers. I know specifically at my school anyway, our K through 2 special education teacher has a massive caseload right now, and it seems like there's people being added to it every day. Just, maybe to kind of look at that a bit and see where we could work with SPED some. And then the inequity from school to school in the level of instructional services that are available.
Of course, ongoing concerns that teachers are having across the board, behavior issues. They're looking at not just wanting more trainings, but they want strategies that work and supports in the school. And we know it's financial, we get it, but it's just an ongoing concern because behavior is escalating. And it's not just at one school, it's not on one side of the community, it's across the board.
And we've had, Janice Cook came and spoke with us about that. I mean, we do understand that there are steps being taken to help out with that.
And along that same lines is support for staff that are experiencing trauma and how it's affecting our other students that are seeing these kids misbehave as well. How do we protect them from that secondary trauma of watching these children who are having issues in the classroom, and we don't have enough places to move them to. We don't have enough staff to move them out of the classroom. And how is that affecting those other students?
One of the other things that we had discussed was the cultural competency trainings, and maybe the way that we discussed it was possibly using the funds for that cultural competency in a more meaningful, effective manner rather than the training. And we discussed the criteria for the IAP, which is the individual plan for teachers, and how exactly does a teacher end up in that situation, and the procedures to help the teacher improve, who exactly is helping the teachers when they get to that situation, and where that funding comes from.
And that conversation was based on some recent changes that we're unclear about. So we could all answer that. Well, most of us could answer that before, but based on the changes, we're just a little concerned about. Disparities at the middle school level was also brought up. What is being done to address the low numbers of minority groups with access to honors and advanced classes?
One of the other things that was brought up in that area as well is what happened to the Honors Academy. Again, this is the upper grades. Honors criteria, the high schools may want to look at the disciplinary core idea scores from 10 Ready to help align the offerings at the high schools. Okay.
And then funding for fine arts and challenges for vertical alignment is a big concern, especially at the high school level. And again, the EPSOs, the consistency and the staffing. We had also talked about CTE and trying to find people that are willing to take a pay cut, basically. And we understand that's an issue, and we understand they're working towards that, but it is a continued concern. And I think finally, it all comes down to staff morale too, is the big issue. So that's kind of where we're leaving it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just kind of an overview of things. I mean, we've had a lot of really in-depth discussions so far this year. So it's been very helpful, and we really appreciate the opportunity to participate on the board and bring you kind of an overview of what we do. So
Thank you very much for serving on that board. And, I don't think there was anything on your list that was really a surprise to us. I mean, I think that I think most of the board members, and I'll ask if anybody has questions, but I think that we know that these things are issues. So thank you for bringing them and discussing them, and it definitely helps to be able to have that group and discuss them and bring these issues to us. So if board members have any questions at this time, Ms. Hill?
Thank you all. In the past, I've been to a few of those meetings, and I know your time's valuable, and I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to come and do this and share with us. And as Ms. Horn said, a lot of this, we get it. But that's not to say that we don't need to hear it again. A couple of comments that you made, I just, you said that you had discussion around the micro team approach. So what was the result of that discussion? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? Is it?
Yeah, that was more of just kind of filling us in and walking us through it. I haven't heard any complaints about it.
Okay.
no, I haven't heard anything negative about it.
Okay.
So, I must admit, I haven't personally worked with a micro team myself, but I haven't heard anything negative about the process. I know that there are some teachers in schools that have, and I haven't heard anything.
And I know it's relatively new, Dr. Roswick, and they're just kind of getting their feet on the ground too, but that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And another thing you said, you talked about behavior issues and strategies and TCI. So so you talked about it. What did you determine?
One of the things that we talked about with TCI is we would like to have more people understand what it is. When Janice Cook came in and presented, she kind of gave everyone an overview of it. And a lot of the TCI training, I am TCI trained, is de-escalation techniques. So it's not, everyone thinks of the TCI team as that we're going to put you in a hold team. And we would like to see more people trained on at least the preliminary part of that. And we talked about how it is, we can't just do, I call it TCI Light, we can't just do part of it, we have to.
Yeah.
So we kind of had that conversation, and that's kind of where we left it.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of what you brought up really is revolving around behavioral health and mental health issues then, which we certainly all know are a problem and at the forefront. So, but I hear you say more training, just more training on strategies that work and.
Yes, and I mean, I think most of us that have students that are challenging in our classrooms have a good number of strategies that we use, but a lot of those strategies aren't working on the students that we see now. I mean, I teach kindergarten, and I have students right now that are in PAC multiple times a day for either eloping from the room and trying to run from the school, or, assaulting me or assaulting another student. And just the fact that they're 5, and most of the strategies that we've used before that worked with most children don't really seem to faze them at all. So just more
Yeah,
intense de-escalation techniques maybe
Yeah.
or something that we could learn that would be part of that TCI training, just that first part, not necessarily the restraint part, but the de-escalation part.
Okay.
And I know we have trauma-informed schools, and there's a lot of training out there for that. I think that that needs to be district-wide. I know the logistics are hard and everything, but if we could get mini trainings at our district learning days, there are some new techniques that some teachers that have been around for a while, and I can say that because I have been, they might not believe would work. And talking restorative circles, talking about calm corners, calm rooms, those are things that are beneficial, not for every child, but not every school has the resources for that either. So not just the training, but actual resources.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you all, and we really are working on that, but I'm telling you, I know y'all are on the front lines, and I do thank you. Thank you.
And even if we hear of other schools, other districts, if we could go observe them and see what they're doing different. I mean, it doesn't have to be a teacher, but somebody to go to find out what they're doing. Because other states are having the same issues. It's not just a Tennessee issue.
That's very true.
It's not.
Yeah, yeah.
So somehow building those resources.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just if I could say a couple of words here, Lee and Laurie, thank you so much for taking your time and coming this evening and reporting to the board. And again, I just say that it's very valuable to us because it reinforces a lot of what we're hearing in terms of trying to do something about. Of course, all of it is budget driven many times, and we're looking at ways as we go through this budget process to address the issues that are being brought to us, and some of the problems that and concerns that we're talking about are work in progress. I know right now, just with the IAPs, our professional collaborative conferencing team is working collaboratively to come up with a better plan than what we've had before, and something that the teams feel like will be very effective. So it was suspended for this year, and to give the PECA team opportunity to look at it and to work out better solutions. And Janice has been to, and you all know what a great job Janice has done. We have so many people doing great jobs that I leave out everybody when I name one, but Janice has worked really hard. She's been to the advisory council twice now, I believe, and scheduled to be there one more time because, again, the behavioral issues and the mental, social, emotional things that our students are going through, it's just a huge driver right now, I think. And of course, as always, addressing the disparities, that's something that we work on every day as well. So again, just appreciate y'all and appreciate our council, and I think it's a great idea when the board established this. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ladies. You have a hard job. We appreciate the job you do, and I hope you'll express that to your whole group. Let me ask you one question before you leave. Was Janice able to answer your question about the cultural competency issue? If not, she can answer that when she comes back to see you.
I don't think she addressed it at that point in time.
Okay.
I think that one came up in one of our little.
Okay, so that'd be a question for her
Okay.
for the next time she's there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will turn to discussion of our March 11th agenda. Okay, do we have questions on contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, moving to board policies. Do we have questions on A, B, C, We've discussed all those in policy review for the, just so the public knows. Grants, A or B? C or D? E or F? And the last one, G. Okay, we have one contract. Any questions on this contract? Okay, moving to regular agenda items. We're approving the 2021-22 calendar. Any questions on the calendar? Okay, Dr. Reiswick, did you have something you wanted to address on the calendar?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the part of the calendar committee, once we landed on one, kind of went out for one more chance for everybody to take a look at it. And someone sent to us this week that we actually didn't include the 4.5-week grading period, so it doesn't change anything as far as moving dates or anything like that. So I think you have a revised copy maybe that was given to you that just puts the 4.5-week. The first one, if you're looking for it, is September the 8th on a Wednesday, but it just marks those 4.5-week grading periods. In the past, we've had some that have had that on it and some that haven't. So I mean, we do them regardless. So we decided, since a committee member had suggested, that we would include them. So that's the only difference, I think, on what you had previously on the published agenda versus the one that you have a copy of in your hands now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the calendar? Okay. Any questions on the tenure item? And any questions on the final item C? Ms. Satterfield?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, how are courses selected? Because these look like new courses, and I'm just curious the process behind that in case I want to get a course introduced.
Ms. Jackson?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Special courses are approved through the state on a 1, 6, or 3-year cycle. And so some of these courses have been in our course catalog. These are not part of the permanent state course collection, but ones that teachers or schools see a need, they develop the course. In some cases, there's a strong interest from students who want to study something more specifically than what's available in the state offerings. So the teachers will then get together, create the course. We bring it to you for approval, and then we send it to the state pending your approval for them to approve. They then tell us how many years we are approved to deliver that course. A couple of these are, most of these are ones that we are refreshing our permission to continue to offer. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Okay, and I don't believe we have anyone for public forum, so we'll move to board forum. Let's start with Ms. Christie. No. Ms. Hill, Ms. Owen, Ms. Satterfield, Mr. Kelly. All right, well, I think then we are adjourned. Thank you.